Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Alyssa Junius. I'm one of the co-founders of Soul Tree Sisters, and welcome to our SoulFlow series. Today, I'll be teaching a mat Pilates flow. This is a beginner-friendly mat practice, so I'm going to take us through a slow flow, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy this recording. If you have any questions after this class and you're here live, feel free to stay for a few minutes to chat. The important thing about having this monthly Soulful series is not only to move, but to move together as we collectively heal and share how we're doing in our personal soul care journey. So we're going to start seated on our mat or kneeling on our mat. So I want to see if you feel comfortable, you can take a seat on our heels. If you need to, you can put a pillow underneath you. If this is not as comfortable, you can also do this beginning exercise with your legs cross-legged or in front of you. For me, ideally, sitting on the heels of our feet is ideal because we want to find a tall, long, and erect spine. So find the seated position, and wherever you are, take a moment to ground down in your breath, breathing in through the nose and out of the mouth. Let's check into our alignment and think about lengthening through the crown of our head all the way to the base of our spine. So we want to have a long spine here. And for Pilates, we like to practice something called lateral breathing. So I want to introduce you to that. So take the hands and place them on the sides of your ribs. And as we inhale, we're going to imagine a balloon filling up sideways. So we're going to breathe into the sides of our ribs. And then as we exhale, we're going to think of pulling our ribs close, and we're going to slide our fingertips towards one another in the front of our ribs. Inhale, lateral breathe to the side. Your hands will slide to the side of your ribs. As you exhale, knit the rib cage close, slide your fingertips forward. Keep that going. So our hands are our visualization of what's happening with our rib cage and our bodies as we breathe. We inhale, we expand. We exhale, we come together, drawing the navel into the spine, the ribs to close. Notice when you do this, if you start to lift your shoulders and descend your shoulders, let's try to keep our shoulders at the same level. So we're just breathing into our rib cage. Exhale. Again, breathing in through the nose. Audible exhale out the mouth. 2 more. Good. We're going to drape the arms down by our side. Let's shake our head no. Bring our chin side to side. Opening up the neck. And then let's nod our chin up and down to say yes. Since this is a morning flow, 9 a.m. for us in San Diego, 12 for y'all on the East Coast. Maybe this is the first movement you're doing for the day. Maybe you've already had a morning walk or morning coffee, ear to shoulder. But one of the things I always like to do when I'm checking in with my breath in my body is to move my neck, because the neck will tell you if you are feeling stressed that day. For me, it's the first signal of like if I'm feeling some type of tension. All right, let's circle our head around to the right, really making sure we are still sitting up nice and tall, even though we're letting the arms just dangle off of the shoulders, and reverse, circle to the left. Keeping the lateral breathing going, even though our hands are on our ribs too. And 1. Good, shake it out. Now we're going to find a seated position with our legs crossed or open. This time, I want you to waddle side to side, wiggle side to side, so you start to feel your sits bones connect with the floor. Maybe move your squishy bits to the side so you can really make contact with those sits bones. And when you're ready, find a settled place. Hands are right on top of your thighs or your knees. Good. Now from here, we're going to start movement in the chest. We're going to move the chest forward. Inhale, lifting the chin towards the sky, and then exhale, pull the heart back, drop the chin, hook your hands onto your knees and pull back. Pause here. This is going to be a nice stretch for between your shoulder blades. So can you create that tension by connecting your hands to your knee, and your arms will kind of get towards more of a straight position. So you get that nice traction stretch. Inhale, draw your chest forward, lift your chin up to the sky, open your throat. Exhale, navel to spine, close the ribs, drop the chin towards your chest. Again, the rib expands as you inhale and lift the chest. Arms bend as you pull yourself forward. Exhale, roll back. 2 more. Focusing on the movement of the rib cage and the spine. Exhale, draw back, drawing the belly in, kind of like you're creating like a hollow belly, a bowl shape, some space in the middle, and come back to center. Good. Now we're going to move into the shoulders. Hands down by your side. Inhale, your arms up. Exhale, your arms down. This is my dog, Missy. Inhale. This is a Pilates practice, y'all. Exhale, bring it down. Good. Inhale the arms up towards the sky. Exhale the arms down. Inhale the arms up. Pause here. Bring the right hand down to the mat and stretch up and over. Speaking of lateral breathing, we're going to start breathing into the left side of our ribs. Inhale, breathe up to that rib. Exhale, draw the navel in. Bending deeper into that bottom arm. Inhale. Exhale. Ideally, maybe you can get the elbow all the way down to the ground without letting the hip bone disconnect from the mat. So what's connected to the mat right now? Our hand, maybe our elbow, but main point is to have those 2 sit bones still rooted down into the mat. Inhale, take the arms up. And then bring it over to the other side. Left hand on the ground, right arm reaching up and over. We're going for that side body stretch. Lateral breathing in through the nose. Breathe into your rib cage. Exhale. Draw the belly in. Navel closes in. Ribs close in. One more time. Inhale. Exhale. So for me, I notice I have more space and room on this side. It's easier for me to keep my right hip rooted down as I reach my right arm over. So just notice which side is tighter. So in these cases, as we're going through our mat practice, when you notice the places that are tighter, maybe you can go back and stretch that part longer. Sometimes if it's not a class, I will do the side that is tighter one more time or sit in it longer. We're here for 3, 2, and 1. Good. Come all the way up. Open the arms to a T. We're going to take a twist here. We're going to have our legs lengthened in front of us. So bring the legs in front of us, nice and long. Let me see, move. And if you have a hard time keeping your legs long because you have tight hamstrings, you can micro bend the knees. So again, we still feel our sit bones in the ground. Your feet can be hip width distance apart or legs glued together. From here, grow tall. Inhale. Exhale, twist to your right. Inhale, center. Take a twist to your left. So the thing we want to be mindful for is that we're not rotating in our hips. So notice your feet, that they stay in line with one another. So we don't look like we're pumping the gas or pumping the brakes. The feet stay nice and even. Inhale, exhale, twist. Inhale, center. Lead with the arm going towards the back. So that back arm continues to twist. So that's what's driving the twist, is our back arm, not our front arm. Come back to center one more time each side. Inhale. Twist to your right and really pull that right shoulder blade back. Keeping the front of the left shoulder open. Back to center. Active twist. Twist to the left. Pull that left shoulder blade back. Keep the right shoulder open. Good, back to center, inhale, and exhale. Good. All right, next we're going to lie supine. So we're gonna lie flat on our backs on the mat. So you're going to turn to the side, lay on your back, and the reason why I say turn to the side is it's gonna be easier for you to look to the side to reference the screen. So if your mat is, if your feet are facing me, you're gonna have to always lift your head, and I want us to keep our necks nice and loose. So make it so where you can look towards the side to refer to the screen and to refer to me. So the feet are planted hip width distance apart. Your palms are down by your side. And just take a moment to breathe and notice what parts of the body are connected to the mat. The bottoms of our feet, the back of our pelvis, the back of our ribs, our shoulder blades, the back of our head, the palms, the forearms, maybe the back of the arms. Good. And so for this next exercise, we're going to focus on our pelvis. So I want you to imagine that there's a triangle for our pelvis. So the pubic bone is the point, and then the two sides of the triangle are our two hip points. So you have 3 points here. I want you to imagine that we're trying to keep this triangle flat. So if we arch our back and let it tip towards our pubic bone, our back is arched. If we tuck and pull the points of the two side points of our triangle, we would be in a tucked position and we'd be pressing the small of our back into the floor. I want you to find a neutral position where your triangle is floating. So you have equal pressure of the hip points and the pubic bone pressing down into the mat. That, my friends, is called a neutral spine. And now we're going to play with doing a pelvic rock. We're going to rock the 2 points of our triangle down and lift our pubic bone. Pause here. This is going to feel like you're starting the beginning of a bridge. So you're going to feel your lower abdominals contract. You're going to maybe feel a little bit of your glutes activate. But I want us to really localize the intention and attention to our core and pelvic muscles. And now we're going to tilt the triangle down towards our pubic bone. Our low back will lift off and hold that there. So you're going to feel a bigger fold in the hip. You're going to feel some space underneath the small of your back. And now we're going to rock back and forth. We'll rock back to the 2 points, rock to the pubic bone, our pelvic rock. Inhale as you arch and press the pubic bone down. Exhale as you pull the 2 points in and find the tuck. Good, rock back and forth. What I like about this exercise is it gets us to become more aware of where we naturally lie, like where our natural posture is in the hips. So if it's easier to access the arch, you probably have more of a lumbar arc in your back when you're standing. If you feel like tucking and pressing your hip bones down is easier, you probably have more of a tucked pelvis. But ideally, we want to have our pelvis right in the middle. So right now we're playing with feeling both extremes so we can kind of become more aware when we're standing later and during the day where we're at so we can pull up in our core and find that neutral position. So I want you to find the neutral position and pause. Notice what that feels like to be in that neutral position. You should feel your core activated. You should not feel your glutes squeezing. You should not feel the low back pressed into the mat. You should feel like you're in a neutral position. So now that we've established that, we're going to keep that neutral pelvic position, and now we're going to be lifting up the tabletop. So from here, lift the right heel off the mat. Inhale, and as you exhale, float your right knee over your hip spine tabletop, and then bring it down. Other side, lift the heel, feel the foot off of the mat, and then bring it down. So we're walking the tabletop. So what we're trying to do here is move from the hip. So we are taking the leg up using our hip, not using our pelvis. So we got to keep the pelvis neutral as we're lifting one foot off the mat, finding that tabletop position. We're here for 5, 4, keep that going, alternating, 3, seeing if you can keep the core engaged, and the core is what's driving this exercise, not the thigh, not the glute, not the pelvis, and 1 rest. Nice, cool. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find our curl. So we're going to keep that neutral pelvis that we established. Take the hands back behind the head, interlace your fingertips, and just lay here for a second. Your elbows are wide in contact with the mat. Your chest is open. So this position right here, you should feel a stretch in the front of your pectoral muscles. Press the back of your hand, the back of your head into your hands. Now, from here, we're going to make a hammock. So we're going to lift the elbows off the mat, but keep our head pressing down into our hands. So you should feel like your arms are active, and now it's holding your head. Take a big breath here, and now exhale, curl. Lift your head, neck, and shoulders. Feel your rib cage glide down towards your belly button. Hold it here. So we should be able to hold this curl because our arms are holding our head. Our head is being held by our hands the hammock. So the arms are working here. Think about gliding your rib cage down towards your belly button, curling a little bit deeper. Ultimately, we want to have our shoulder blades off of the mat. So how deep of an upper back curl can you find for this lift and roll back? Inhale. Connect with the mat. Exhale, curl. Lift the head, neck, and shoulders. Try to get the shoulder blades off the mat. Good. And roll back. We're going to do a couple more. Inhale. Exhale, curl. Lift. Glide the shoulder blades down towards your belly button. Roll back. Inhale. Okay, your movement with your breath. Inhale to roll back. Exhale to curl. We're going to hold this next curl. Then from here, we're going to walk the tabletop. So the same thing we did earlier. Bring the right leg up to tabletop, lower it down. And then left leg up while we keep the curl. So during this whole exercise, what we're trying to do is not let the pelvis rock. So as we pull the knee in towards our chest, up to tabletop, making sure our tailbone or our pubic bone isn't lifting towards the sky and are dropping down towards the ground, and then our our points, our hip points are not tucking. We want to keep the pelvis neutral. We're here for 5, 4, keep that curl, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Rest your head, neck, and shoulders. We're going to open our arms out to the side in a T position, palms down to the ground. Actually, open facing palm to the ceiling. Bring the legs together to touch. We're going to take a twist. Big breath in. And exhale, let your knees fall over to the right for a spine twist. Let's try to keep the left shoulder down on the mat. Back to center. And let the knees fall over to your left, keeping the right shoulder back on the mat. And then pull it in. 1 more each side. Inhale. Exhale. Let the knees fall over to the right. Back to center. And let your knees fall to the left. Back to center and rest. Good. Bring your feet back to hip width distance. We're going to go for our bridge. So bridging, palms are pressing down into the mat, feet are hip width distance apart. Big breath in. Think about that triangle. We have a neutral pelvis for now. As you exhale, press the 2 points down into the mat. Imprint your low back into the mat. Now, once your tailbone is tucked, you're going to feel like your glutes are slightly lifted off of the mat. From here, press into your feet and begin to peel the spine off the mat to lift the hips all the way up to the sky. Once you get to the top, pause. Let me see. Once you get to the top, pause. Pulling the ribs down, but keeping the hips up. Inhale. Exhale, roll down one vertebra at a time. Good, let's do that a couple more times. Big breath in. Exhale, draw the navel in, rib cage in, tailbone presses up, press into the feet. Make sure the legs are staying parallel, so the inner thighs have to engage to keep the legs straight versus letting the legs fall open and then roll down. Take a couple on your own with your breath. Inhale here. And as you exhale, draw the navel in, press into your hip bones, pubic bone lifts up towards the sky, press into your feet. At the top, make sure your chin's away from your chest, and then roll down as the back of your head presses into the mat, creating that traction, finding a stretch for the low back. One more time, inhale. Exhale, draw it in, press into the feet, press into the arms, lift the hips at the top. Pause here. You should feel your glutes really squeezing and lifting up. Pull your rib cage down as you keep your hips up and roll down one vertebra at a time, creating that resistance in your body. Good. And go ahead and bring your knees into your chest, hug it out. Maybe circle the knees to the right. Maybe circle the knees to the left. Good. All right, now we're going to find that core circuit connection. Your hands are down by your side. We're going to bring the leg closest to the screen to tabletop. Okay, so tabletop, your hip is underneath your knee and your shin is parallel to the ground. Take both hands and overlap them, and you're going to place them on your thigh. Good. From here, I want you to press your hand into your thigh and your thigh into your hand. This is going to activate your core connection, like that circuit. So you're going to feel your core activate. Good. From here, you're going to press into the palm, press your thigh into your palm, and hold for 5, 4. Think about your pelvis. It's neutral. 2 and 1. Try not to tuck the tailbone and bring it down. Other side. Knee in towards your chest. Find that tabletop. Press your palms into your thigh into your palms, and now we're going to press against each other for 5 seconds while keeping the pelvis neutral. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. The hardest thing about this specific exercise is not to tuck the knee and let the pubis bone lift and the 2 points come down. So we tend to do that when we bring our leg up. So I want you to try to keep that neutral pelvis. Take the leg to tabletop and find that connection. Let's try it one more time. Think about that neutral pelvis. We're pushing for 5, 4. Use that arm strength. 3. Think about your pelvis position. 2, 1. Shake it out. It's less about how far your knee is towards your chest. It's more about the resistance we're creating to challenge our pelvis to stay neutral. Okay? Let's try the other side. Pelvis is neutral. Push into your thigh. Thigh pushes into your knee. Push for 5, 4. Create that resistance, that power in the arms. 3. Power in the thigh. 2, 1. And shake it out. So it's an internal thing. Like you can feel, now that we're visualizing that triangle, you can kind of start to feel if it's tilted up or it's tilted down. Good job. All right. Now we're going to do something called the series of 5. This is an ab series. I'm going to go through it now that we've found our fundamentals. We know what we're looking for. So what we're looking for in this, we're trying to keep that pelvis neutral. Our pelvis is the key to our posture. We think it's our shoulders, but our pelvis is what holds our entire skeletal system up beyond our legs. So that's why in Pilates we focus on that. Hug your right knee in towards your chest. Good. And lengthen the left leg long. Feel that hip flexor stretch. It's called single leg stretch. Go ahead and roll that right ankle, getting some movement into the ankle. And then reverse that circle roll. Also, we're trying to pull our knee in towards our chest. Now here, it's okay if our pelvis tilts. Okay, it's okay if you have a little bit of a pelvic tilt because we're pulling our knee so far into our chest. That's okay, but I want you to fight against it just a little bit to create that resistance. That's what's going to give you that challenge to lengthen through the bottom leg hip flexor. So yeah, see, feel yourself pull your knee towards your chest. Naturally, your tailbone's gonna tuck up. Now, create that resistance of pressing your hand, or pressing your knee into your thigh, and see what it feels like to keep your pelvis neutral. It's a different sensation. It's a small detail, but that is where we want the work to be. Big breath in. Exhale, curl. Lift your head, neck, and shoulders. Float your left leg off the mat. And then from here, let's switch to the other side. And switch, pull, and switch, pull. So now you understand that you can do these things called bicycles that most times in exercises or exercise classes they do. But the main cue for this is keeping your pelvis neutral and not letting it tuck towards the sky. So we can also get that extra hip flexor stretch as we reach the lengthened leg to the opposite wall. We're pulling the opposite knee into our chest. That is the coordination. But the fundamental point is to keep our pelvis neutral. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring both knees in towards your chest. Hands behind your head. We're going to go for a twist. Left knee in toward your chest, twist to the left. Right knee toward your chest, twist to the right. We're going for our twist. So in this twist, you want to make sure you're twisting from the torso and that those hip points don't start to disconnect from the mat. So don't let your right and your left hip start to lift as you twist. So maybe your knee doesn't come as far towards your chest, maybe your elbow. So it's less about your knee coming in toward your chest. It's more about your torso. We're lifting the head, neck, and shoulders to get to that knee. So our tailbone stays reaching long. We're here for 3, 2, 1. Stretch the right leg up towards the sky. Lengthen the left leg long as hovering. Now we're in a leg stretch, scissor stretch, and switch. Pause here. So we're using our arms, pointing to the toes. Use your arms to pull your head, neck, and shoulders forward. Reach the bottom leg towards the opposite wall. Reach the top leg up to the ceiling. Feel your calf press into your hands. Good. And switch. And switch. And switch. So again, this is less about how much you can get your leg to touch your face and more about thinking about that pelvis and how it's staying neutral. So the tailbone is not curling up to the sky. The tailbone is reaching straight forward, just like the bottom leg. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2. Hold your knees into your chest. Let's let our head rest for a second. So Pilates is easy, y'all, until you do it right. All right, now we're going to do double leg stretch. Big breath in. Exhale, curl. Lift your head, neck, and shoulders. Good. Now from here, we're going to have our hands on our knees, and we're going to reach our arms and legs away from center, then pull it back in. Good. Now from here, it's okay for your pelvis to tilt up in the knee pull, but then rock it back on the extension. So as you pull your knee in towards your chest, your tailbone and your forehead is going to try to reach towards each other. And then from here, your tailbone reaches out, your head reaches back. Good. And curl. And reach. This is hard for me. Curl, lift, and reach. Last one. Curl, lift, and reach. Good. Hands down behind your back. Reach your legs up to the sky. Okay, legs lower. We're going to lower the legs and lift the legs. If this is too much for your head, neck, and shoulders, you're going to have your head down, but keep the legs going. You can also go to tabletop. This might be easier if your hamstrings are super tight. But ultimately, we want our hands behind our head, our legs extended, we lower and lift. Hinging from the hip. Seeing if you can keep the tailbone reaching long. We're here for 5. Point and stretch the toes. 4, 3, 2, 1, and shake it out. Woo, you can windshield wiper your knees side to side. I don't know about y'all, but that last part of the double leg stretch, it got me. I like it though. All right, when you're ready, We're going to turn to the side and come up for a second. Next, we're gonna do spine stretch next. Spine stretch. So that means we're taking a seat, facing forward. Our legs are gonna be straight ahead in front of us, as wide as the mat, or maybe slightly wider. Your toes are flexed to the sky. And you're gonna find those sits bones again. So now our triangle, instead of being down, it's horizontal. Sorry, not horizontal, it's vertical. So you have your 2 points and your pubic bone. So the 2 points now are higher than that pubic bone. So try to envision that here. So we're gonna try to keep that pelvis neutral for this exercise. You're gonna reach your arms here. Inhale here, and as you exhale, spine stretch, nod your chin towards your chest and round forward, scoop the belly in. Pause here. So your ears should be between your arms. You're reaching forward. You feel that stretch in your upper back, and then come up, stack up the spine. Inhale. Exhale, nod your chin towards your chest. Glide your fingertips forward as if they're trying to reach past your toes, but pull your heart back so we don't lose that triangle stance. So you're pulling your belly in. Pulling your belly in is going to help you keep the triangle stacked. And then come up. Inhale. How far can you round and reach forward without tilting in the pelvis, keeping the pelvis right upward, upright. Come back up. Inhale. Exhale. Reach forward. Pull the heart back. Don't let your hips hinge forward. This is not a hip hinge. This is not your typical trying to touch your toes. This is a spine stretch. We're trying to stretch our upper back. We're trying to pull our ribs and belly button back. We're trying to keep our pelvis stacked and come back in. Inhale. Visualize that triangle, stay upright. Pull the belly in. Reach, 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 reach. Flex through the toes and come up. Shake it out. Now, you can find a wider stance. Hinge at your hips. Maybe your hands come down. Maybe your elbows come down. Maybe you come all the way down to the ground. But now you can feel the difference. This is not a spine stretch, right? This is a hip stretch. It's a stretching in our inner thighs. We're allowing our hips to hinge forward. So now that triangle is coming down, right? So now we're going to practice hinging with our legs slightly wider. Okay, from here, you can have your legs closer together, but the wider your legs are, you're also going to get some inner thigh work. So bring the hand back behind your head. So like we started on the ground, right? We had our elbows wide, and before we did our curl, I want you to think of pressing the back of your head into your hand, and you're gonna feel that lengthen your spine, lift out of your waistline, and then from here, we're gonna change our hand orientation. So from here, that's just to find our spine. Bring the hands on your forehead, so overlap the hands on your forehead. We're gonna hinge forward with a flat back. Then we're gonna come back up. We're gonna try to keep our back flat, so grow tall, up and forward and back. This is a hip hinge. We're hinging in our hip, and we're coming back up. Press into the heels of your feet to help recruit your hamstrings to help you back up. So on the way forward, we're getting a stretch for our hamstrings. And on the way back, we're pressing into the heels to use the hamstrings to lift us back up. Good, lengthen through the crown of your head. Keep those elbows wide and lifted. Keep the chest open. So we don't want to find that rounded shoulder position like we did in the other exercise. We're trying to keep our back nice and flat. We're here for 5, 4. We're tilting forward, tilting the triangle forward. And 1, shake it out. Nice. Okay, from here, we're going to be on our side. We're going to lay down on the ground on our side. This is our side lying exercise. So we're going to have the bottom arm nice and long. The top arm is pressing down into the mat. The legs are bent, and the hips and shoulders are stacked. So this looks like a pretty simple exercise. I'm just laying on my side, but I want you to think that you're lifting the bottom waistline off the ground. So instead of letting it just lay on the ground, think of lifting your waist up and away from the floor. That's going to activate your lateral muscles. So just even envisioning that the side of your body is lifting up and away from the floor. And to do that too, to counter that, I want that top arm to press down into the mat. So as your top arm is pressing down, your waistline is pressing away. And then from here, we're going to keep the top still. Now that we found that shape and that energy, we're going to find clam. We're going to open and close that knee. Open and close. So this is our hip extension. External rotation. We're using the glute to open and close the hip, to rotate. Added challenge, lift the heels and continue to do the clam. So the heels lift off the ground. So the challenge here is not necessarily the clam. It might be for some of you, but really to keep that torso engaged so the waistline is pulling in and up away from the floor. We're here for 3, 2, and 1. Good. Now from here, we're going to extend the top leg down in the mat. So here, you have even more challenge to keep that waistline down. We're going to lift the leg in line with the hip. We're going to lift the leg in line with the hip and then tap it down. And lift. Keep pointing the toe. So you're going to feel a stretch right there on the outside of your greater trochanter. So outside of that hip, you're going to feel a stretch on the side. And then you're going to use your side hip to lift the leg in line with your shoulder. Lifting up and down. That top arm is pressing down into the mat. The waistline is lifting up and away from the mat. 2 and 1. Keep the leg lifted. From here, lift the head. Take the hands behind the ear, the side of the head, and we're going to sweep the leg forward, keeping it hip height, and then sweep the leg back, getting a stretch in front of the hip, and then sweep it forward and back. So the challenge here is keeping the leg at the same height as the hip. You're going to start to feel that outer hip start to burn. We want to feel that. Now, at the same time, I want you to notice, did your waistline start to dip into the mat? Think of lifting your waistline up and away from the mat. Good. That's add that extra engagement of the core. 3, 2, sweep the leg forward and hold. Now we're going to tap the leg down, lift it up. Ooh, it's so much harder when the leg is in front. We're here for 5. Draw the navel in. Draw the ribs back. 2, use that top arm to press down into the mat. Press away from the mat so you don't start to turn your torso to the ground. 1, lift. Bring it back. Shake it out. Woo! Give yourself a little pat. Good job. Let's take it to the other side. Like I said again, Pilates is easy until you do it right. Pilates is it's a method about maintenance. It's a method all about body maintenance. So we want to be we're developing awareness of our body, awareness of the body parts that stabilize and support us. Okay, so we're laying on our side, top arm is long, bottom arm is long, top hand is pressing down and away. The reason why we want to have the top arm active, notice when it's not active, my chest turns to the floor. We're using it to keep our shoulders stacked. Now from here, think about that waistline and pulling it in and up, away from the floor. Good, let's go into our clams. Open and close. Shoulders and hips are stacked. So you want to feel your rib cage pulled in, your belly button pulled back. Added challenge is to lift the feet and continue to do our clam. I like this one. This one's always great to wake up your hips. This is a great one to do our step and stride people. Woo, working your hip your pelvis before you walk is so good to do. Because why? It's part of our posture. It holds us up. It holds the entire frame of our skeletal system up. Good. 2 and 1. Good. Extend that top leg. So when you extend the top leg, you're going to initially feel that stretch of the ligament over the greater trochanter. We're going to lift it in line with the hip, our shoulder, and hip, and then drop it down. So you're going to feel a stretch on the down and activation, the muscle working on the way up. Don't forget about that bottom waistline, lifting up and away from the ground. Toe is pointed, so there's energy out of the feet. Good. And you're really, the more your leg is in line with your entire body, the more you'll feel that extra stretch on the side of the hip when the toe taps down to the ground. That's what we want. We want that side body stretch while keeping the waist lifted on the bottom. 2, 1. Lift the leg. Now we're going to bring the hand behind the head. This makes it a little bit more challenging to keep the waistline away from the mat. Sweep the leg forward. Then sweep the leg back. It's going to reach the back corner of your mat. Sweep the leg forward towards the screen. Sweep the leg back towards the back corner of your mat. You're going to feel a stretch in your hip flexor, maybe even quad. Sweep it forward. Sweep it back. Think about that front hand and how it's pushing away from the mat so you're not letting your shoulders start to roll forward. Good. You want your shoulders to be facing me. Good. We're here for 3. Side leg sweep. 2, 1. Reach your leg forward. Now we're going to tap it down, lift it up. Ooh, this is hard. What's hard about this is also keeping the waistline off the ground. So use that front arm to push the floor away. Ooh, this side is harder for my right hip. It's interesting. We're here for 5. Usually my right hip is stronger. 4, 3. That's why I like Pilates. It helps me check into my body. 2, 1. Bring it back and shake it out. Give yourself a nice tap. Woo. Missy thinks that tap means come here. No, go over there. Go over there, Missy. Go, 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 go. All right, now we're going to go into all fours position. All fours position, hands and knees. So your shoulders should be over your wrists. Your hips should be over your knees. Let's find a couple of, stretches to like move our spine around. We can call this cat-cow. Drop the belly, stretch the chest through the arms, lift the chin. Think of your pubic bone reaching back and up, or your tailbone reaching up. And then now let's round your upper back, scoop the belly in, cat. Think of the pubic bone reaching forward, tailbone reaching down, and the hip points pulling up. Your hip points are pulling up into your ribs. And then release the ribs, open the chest, send the tailbone back and up. Chin lifts, push the floor away, shoulders away from your ears. Try that again. Round, scoop the belly in. Push the upper back to the ceiling. Push your hip bones down and forward, finding that pelvic curl. And now let's find neutral. So you can like wiggle side to side. We're in a neutralized position. So again, that triangle is now holding up a tea, a tea cup on the back. When they say in hip hop, her booty's so fat she can fit a cup on her booty. Well, her pelvis is so neutral, she can balance a cup on her booty. So that's the Pilates version. Okay, from here, we're going to bend the knee and bring the heel towards the boot, the leg closest to the mirror. And now from there, we're going to lift the thigh up to the sky and then bring the knee down. Lift the thigh up to the sky and bring the knee down. So we're keeping that contraction of the hamstring. Good. So the knee taps down to the ground and then lifts up. Good. We're trying to keep that teacup in the back of our pelvis. So we're not arching our back. Really press into the hand, the same hand of the leg that's moving. We're going to feel those lateral muscles work. Try not to sink into the supporting hip. Keep lots of pressure into the hand of the hip that's moving. We're here for 3, 2, 1. Bring it down. Now we're going to open it to the side. So from here, go ahead and bend that knee. Lift the heel to the glute. Open and tap. Open. This one's going to be hard. This one's where you really don't want to spill the tea. Do not spill the tea. Open up that hip just like we did with the clam. We're here for 5, 4. Push the floor away. 3, 2, 1. Sit back. Hips to the hip. Hips to the heels. Maybe bring your head down. And we're going to go to the other side. I'm going to flip around so you can see my leg close to the screen. All right, back to our all fours position. Legs are hip width distance apart. Go ahead and start to bend the knee and bring the heel close to the glute. Then from here, we lift the thigh and open the front of the hip. And then bring it down. Again, that back is flat. The pelvis is neutral. Good. Pushing the floor away. The arms are active. So we're always trying to keep all body parts a part of the exercise. So there's never a part of the body that's not involved. There are some that are going to be the stabilizers. Some are the ones initiating the movement. So every part of our body has an active part in all the exercises. 2, 1. Good. Now we're going to open it up to the side. Bend the knee, bring the glute, heel to the glute, open and close. Open and close. Notice if you're starting to tilt and lean to one arm, you want to keep weight into the hand, in the hand that the leg is opening and closing. So you can work that lateral muscle. Good. Pulling the rib cage up, pulling the belly back and up to the sky. We're here for 3. Keep that triangle neutral, not tilting up or down. 2, 1. Bring the hips back over the heels. Arms stretch forward. Maybe the forehead comes all the way down to the ground. Take a couple of breaths here. Good. Now we're going to lay on our bellies. So we're going to bring our legs straight behind us. We're going to have our hands by our side, our foreheads down on the mat. We're going to work our upper back here. So arms are reaching long, legs are reaching long. Think of pulling your waistline up away from the mat as we press our hip bones down. So as we press our hip bones down, our glutes are going to activate. Our legs are straight, energy out of the toes. From here, lift the upper back. So your head will lift, but we're not lifting our chin. Keep the back of the neck long, so your chin's down. Your chin shouldn't be lifting up. It should be your upper back doing the work, and then come down. Good. Lift the upper back. Reach the fingertips for your toes. Chest is opening. But remember, your head is in line with your spine, so make sure your chin is pointing down to the ground, not up to the front edge of the mat and back down. That's a common thing that people do. They break the line of their neck versus letting their neck be long and really recruiting the upper back muscles to lift us, not our head. Good, come back down. Keep it going. Lifting up the upper back, keeping the back of the neck long, chin down. How far can you reach those fingertips for your heels? Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Open the chest without opening the throat. Coming back down. So we're not opening the throat, keeping the back of the neck long. Lift it. Reach the fingertips for the heels. Open the shoulder without opening the throat. Keep the chin down, back of the neck long. How much can you lift without lifting the chin? Keeping the gaze forward and coming down. Ooh, this one's challenging when you're doing it with that intention of keeping the back of the neck long. Last one. Lift and hold. Good. From here, open the arms to a T. Lift a little bit higher. Reach the fingertips back for the heels. Keep the lift. Open the arms to a T. Reach the arms back for the heels. Reach, open for the T. Lift a little higher as you reach back for your heels. Reach the arms forward, and then bring your hands down by your ears or your head. You can windshield wiper the legs side to side. Push back. We go back into your pose where your heels are on your hips. Your hands are extended. Your arms are extended. Drop your hands down. Go ahead and come up. Now we're going to take a stand. We're going to find a standing position on the mat. This last thing we're going to do is a hip opener. If you're a yogi, this is called like malasana. For Pilates, we just call it a hip opener. So your legs are slightly turned out. We're not want to be too wide. We want to have our heels as wide as our shoulders. So this is as wide as my hip. You want your heels as wide as your shoulders, and you want to not go for too far of a turnout. You want a pretty narrow turnout. From here, we're going to reach the arms forward, and we're going to start to bend into our knees and sink down. Let's pretend that our back is against the wall. We're going to sink down as far as we can, dropping our hips down to our heels. Good, and then we push into our heels to come all the way up. We're going to bend the knees, sending the knees over the toes. Try to keep the heels on the ground. The second they lift, you've gone too far. So try to keep the heels on the ground. Try to keep the chest open. Press into the heels to come all the way up. Inhale. Exhale. Keep reaching forward. As we shift back, weight should be into the heels as the knees go forward towards the toes. Weight back into the heels. Keep reaching forward. Now push into the heels to come all the way up. So I'll face this side so you can kind of see, but I'm not doing this. I'm not keeping my tailbone tucked. I'm finding that tilt that we found when our legs were to the side or hinging. So there's a hinge to this, right? So my triangle is not upright, it's actually at a diagonal. Now push. See how my pelvis is at a hinge and then it comes back underneath me. So the hips underneath me. I send my pelvis back. I start to bend into my knees. Weight into the heels. Reach, 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 reach. See if you can find that deep fold in the hips. Can you relax your hips down towards your heels? Can you keep your chest forward? Maybe even press your elbows into your knees. Hands together. Good. See if you can settle here. If it's better for you to move up and down, keep the up and down motion going. That's a great way to build that flexibility, keeping the movement going. But if you can tolerate it, breathe into this hip stretch. Breathe into the nose, out of the mouth. So as we're here, I want to offer you some food for thought. Okay, so when it comes to developing strength and improving our posture, it's about the pelvis. There's so much power in the pelvis. A lot of dysfunction in our posture and our misalignment comes from the pelvis being misaligned, the pelvis not being strong. So in Pilates, that's what we focus on. We focus on pelvic strength. A lot of times we'll generalize it and say a strong core, but the core is more than just your transverse abdominis. It is your back. It is your spine. It is your pelvis. It's basically your entire trunk between your shoulders and your hips. And that's where, when we think about the pelvis, I'll stand up, you can kind of come out of it. Take a look here. The pelvis is literally what holds us up. Our arms dangle from our shoulders in our skeletal system. Our legs dangle from our hip socket, right? So if you didn't have arms and legs, we'd have this core, right? And what holds it up is our pelvis. So that's why we did this flow. I hope this flow was helpful. I hope this mindful movement helped you to connect to your pelvis. So whenever you're working out, doing other methods like yoga, walking, running, any type of activity, you can always put your hands like a triangle, two hands on your hips and then fingertips pressing to your pubic bone. That is your triangle. And you can kind of see, like you can kind of tell, where it's going and everything. So it's a great way to kind of ground down and know where your pelvis is. And then try to move in space that way, whether you're, dancing or, like I said, walking, knowing where your pelvis is. Do you walk like this with your hip bones pressing back? Do you walk like this with your pelvis pressing forward? We want the hip to be right underneath our shoulders, and that takes core stability to keep the hips there. So thank you so much for joining me in class. I hope you enjoyed that mindful Pilates mat flow. I am curious to know how you enjoyed it. Let me know if you're watching the recording. You can comment on our community app. If you're in the live class right now, you can let me know. Missy, did you like it? She's like, I love Pilates.